Good evening, everybody. So you already got people in the chat saying hello. So hello, Scholar General. Hello, Wyoming. I'm gonna get started on all this. We're on bag 17, and I think there's 26 bags total. So that gives us about 9 bags left. It's roughly 4 more streams worth if we stick to the 2 bags per stream. My plan for tomorrow, at least in part, is to take this live stream downstairs to my primary computer and do some design stuff during the day, at least for a little bit. So a bit of a live stream, probably starting in the before lunchtime period, maybe 10 o'clock or so Eastern, and going from there. But I'm going to, I think, I want to try to take a stab at doing the drive-in theater concept. So we will try to kick that off. Scholar says, what is the total piece count? It's on the box. 4,570, or sorry, 4,514. There we go. So about 4,500 pieces for this model. We're going to build a little minifig here. And, you know, probably a couple hundred pieces that are extra pieces. So really we're talking maybe a little bit less than 4,500 total pieces. But it's really coming along at this point. But yeah, I look forward to sitting down and doing the design work piece of it. I already have some ideas of what I want to do with it. Here is the little minifigure, if it'll focus, that we're creating. So, oops. I look forward to kicking that off. And in general, I have an idea of what I want to do. But because, as it was talked about in a stream a while back, there was a kind of a request to go through the entire design process on the stream. And I think that it'd be valuable to do that for the purposes of maybe even turning it to a video at some point or something like that. I'm going to really start the whole stream tomorrow, the whole process tomorrow, by sitting down and actually drawing out kind of the basic idea of what I want to do first, basically. So, all right, got little dungeon doors here. And I have I have some original notions of what I want to do. I also had some ideas just about 5 minutes ago, some stuff I'd like to do with it. So it'll be fun to actually sit down and start that process and see how far we get in the process of doing it on a stream. So hopefully, that's something that the normal attendees at the nighttime stream can do. I know that's certainly more difficult for working hours, and that's fine. The stream will, of course, be viewable if anyone wants to view it later. I have a live stream playlist. It's kind of the videos that I do live streams of, in order to not destroy my channel, basically. They go in an unlisted state pretty much immediately after the live stream is done, but they are actually accessible via a live stream playlist that is published in my channel under playlists. So you can actually find the entire back catalog of all the live streams that way, including all the ones of building this castle, which, you know, in my opinion, watching an unedited live stream after the fact is kind of boring, so I don't really expect it to be watched, but it's at least available. Alright, let's see here. Have to orient myself with what I'm doing based on this picture. I'm doing it open. Okay. Oh, hang on. I'll be right back, everyone. All right, sorry about that. Random kid. Normally, so the reason I start the live stream so late normally is because they're in bed. Apparently, my daughter decided to wake up. Mostly just something for people to do background noise. Yeah, and yeah, I mean, I really think of content on YouTube the same way I consume it. And the way I consume content on YouTube, I know, is different than how other people do it. But I tend to cater my channel the same way as I would expect it to be, basically. So that is the reason for you know, me not barraging my channel, but at least making it accessible in case anyone wants it. Things are a little, so I took painkiller for your knee. Things are getting a little fuzzy. Oh, that's fun. The good type of painkiller, huh? I woke up a couple days ago with a crick in my neck, basically. Very uncomfortable. And I didn't really have anything strong for it. Sometimes I wish I did. It's gotten better, though, thankfully. How is the knee coming along? As I know you mentioned that you'd injured it. Has desk duty driven you insane yet? But yeah, anyway, as I was saying, I hope that some people that are normally here can watch the stream some, even if it is, again, kind of background noise as I go through the design process. I think it'll be a fun stream, though. And I'm really looking forward to sitting down and doing it. Trying to get creative in a way with Lego that I'm not normally. since most of the time I build things already created by other people. I've actually started the process of getting pieces together for a giant Lego cathedral that I want to build. It's kind of one of the biggest pieces that gets a lot of attention on Rebrickable. And it's something obscene like 20,000 pieces. And so I spent part of today digging through buckets of Lego trying to pull out pieces that are useful for it. I figured what I'll end up doing is I'll kind of chip away at getting the parts I need over time, with no plans on building it anytime within the next couple of years. But just whenever I come across pieces I need for it, I'll, check it off the list and I'll throw it in a larger bucket that I can sort through later. And yeah, I look forward to building that thing, but it's so big that I will not be able to put it anywhere. Hence the waiting for a couple of years. Yeah, it's a really, really large model. Really beautifully designed, though. And it's done in a kind of a modular sensibility, which makes it fit into the aesthetic of other kind of city-themed or modern-themed modular buildings. And I think it'll be worth doing. And there are kits out there that can be done with the knockoff Lego style, like, off-brand things, but I think I'm going to stick to doing it with actual Lego bricks. And so it's going to also be very expensive, which is why I'm not pulling the trigger on it immediately, because I don't have that type of money to drop on massive quantities of Legos to that degree. Especially secondhand, I'd have to source it from all over the place, and it would be a lot of money. So I figured the small chip away at it approach, since I kind of periodically go visit that Lego reseller, I can scrounge through their stuff as well. And so that's the tack I'm going to take with it. Yeah, Wyoming. Yeah, you'd mentioned that in the other stream, that basically it was someone that you had to end up taking down, and you had to kind of hurt yourself in the process, because of course as soon as you're having to tackle someone, you're inevitably going to be hitting the ground as well. But yeah, the design for the I'm jumping all over the place, kind of not real focused on what I'm talking about right now. But the design for the drive-in theater that I want to do, my plan with that one is to actually take it through the whole process, and then be able to build it maybe on stream or something like that. And then I can also, like I said, if I capture the stream, the design process, I can take the highlights out of that and kind of make an end-to-end video of it, which I think would be kind of fun to do. And then assuming that the whole design works and looks good and is a fun build, I could even maybe submit it to Lego Ideas or something like that. Although Lego Ideas tends to favor much more complicated things, and so Rebrickable would be the other place to put it, so that people can access it, and I could either put it up for free or sell the instructions, but I'd probably do it for free. I don't know that I would care that much. The only downside, really, at the end of the day, that I have to consider is that you do have to kind of treat that stuff as intellectual property. Even if you're okay with it being out there for free, people will try to profit off of it, which is unfortunate. So even gating it behind a very minimal amount of money means that someone has to invest something if they're going to try to do something funky with it. But most of that comes out of China anyway, so they'll pay the couple of dollars and then rip you off. But again, I don't know that I would care that much, but I do think it would be fun to do the design, go through the process, and it's something I would love to build. So here's a question for the people that are on the chat right now. All what, 3 of you? What kind of non-medieval content would you be interested in seeing? Because I've also been going through some of the things I could do videos of. That is content related that I would actually do a proper video of, and one of which is an unboxing of some of the high-end, they're called, like, I call them hot toys, but they're this one is actually a company called Pure Arts, but the 1/6 scale figures basically that are like really nice and high-end. I actually have a collection of those that I started a few years ago, and some that I pre-ordered like 4 years ago suddenly arrived, and I figured that would be potentially a fun kind of unboxing first impression type video. Roaming what says last week was stopping domestic attack. So you're in the office day resting a knee and the DUI came in. Oh, you had to tackle a second one. My goodness, that is insane. No rest for you then, huh? Trouble finds you, unfortunately. That's really insane. I'm always amazed at how much people are willing to dig themselves a deeper hole. Start off with a DUI, and I understand, DUI, they're already lacking some crucial faculties there, but that turns into resisting arrest, and it comes with a badge. Again, that's why I have a lot of respect for you and people who do that work. This says, man, why is that text always so small? That lad's seen one too many days in the dungeon. That's because he's dead. I also have a random thing that I've been wanting to do forever with Lego, and it's just made me think of it because of this little skull that I have here. If it'll focus. I want to get like hundreds of these, and I have a crystal skull vodka bottle, which is shaped like a skull. And I'd love to just fill it up with a bunch of little Lego skulls. It'd be like my own little artistic contribution of just a skull with skulls inside. I don't know why that's something I want to do. I have no rational reason for it, and I can only assume that's how artists operate. And since I don't have an artistic bone in my body, it must be my only form of artistic expression. It's just to fill up a crystal head vodka skull bottle with a bunch of Lego skulls. It was his second DUI after losing his license. And doesn't that come with some pretty serious jail time at that point? I mean, you lose your license and you have 2 DUIs after that? That's, how is that person still walking the streets? Let's see if I can get this Mr. Skeleton in here. It's weird how they're doing this. He doesn't have anything to actually stand on. Oh, Crystal Head vodka is really going down that rabbit hole is very strange. If you go down the rabbit hole that is both Crystal Head Vodka as a product as well as I'm blanking on his name. That's a terrible thing to do. Dan Aykroyd. There we go. Just needed a moment for it to come to my brain. Dan Aykroyd is kind of a rabbit hole. It's just as a character, as a person. You can go pretty deep down that rabbit hole. He is a very strange individual. He believes in all sorts of weird, kooky things. Believes in ghosts, believes in aliens. Has alien encounter stories that he tells. Just crazy. Yeah, that's why I tried to escape. It's insane to me that, I don't know. I can't sympathize with people with that kind of mindset because I'm the type of person who has never been drunk a day in my life. So I can't sympathize with people who willingly give up their mental faculties and then make terrible life decisions. You seen a JonTron video about him? Yeah, I don't think I've seen that video, but I just know you can go really, really, really in depth with the craziness that is Dan Aykroyd. And Crystal Head Vodka is, as a product, is very much a reflection of his personality. Like, they pour the vodka over a crystal. At least that's, as I understand it. Like, it's part of the processing for it. Pretty weird. Vid idea, homesteading, prepping journey to improve your home and family situation. Yeah, and I can get berated by everyone about my bad ideas. No, it's I have thought about doing it. It's how much this channel becomes a vlog channel. I still want to do produced videos, and finding that balance is a very big question. Hello, Dmitry Zaitsu. I look like Gandalf. Well, that's a compliment, I suppose. It's better than looking not like Gandalf, I suppose. Trying to make my inner wizard come out. And I am generally like, I think I'm off the idea of doing product reviews, like formal ones. I would certainly do like unboxing and first impression type things, because those are ultimately much easier to do. They're low effort, right? You basically record yourself doing what you would do anyway, and you kind of speak out loud a little bit, and then you post that to YouTube, and it's minimal editing, if any, right? So there's an element of that I would, one of the reasons I potentially do that type of thing, just various products, things that I buy anyway. Maybe a video about Lord of the Rings lore, video about why more people should check out Lord of the Rings online. Yeah, that's a good idea. I have wanted to do a bit of a deep dive into Lord of the Rings online for a while, and maybe that's what I should do. So it's not a bad idea, certainly. I might use that one. I don't know about the Lord of the Rings lore one. There are a lot of very good Lord of the Rings lore channels out there, and I don't know that I could add anything to that conversation that they couldn't do better. I tend to try to not retread or rehash things, especially where there are better authorities on the subject than I. It's one of the reasons that I've stayed away from a lot of the topics that a lot of people tend to drive at, and there's enough people talking about Lord of the Rings, especially now with the Amazon series that I'm probably okay with not trying to put too much of that content out there right now. But yeah, Lord of the Rings Online is definitely one I could talk a lot about, because it is seriously one of my all-time favorite video games, and one of the best representations of Tolkien's world, really in any artistic medium outside of the actual books. Like, I love the films, but it's a better representation of Middle-earth than what Jackson did, because it's much, much more true to the source material. And so that's kind of hard to beat, right, if you're trying to be a very purist. And they take liberties, obviously, because it's a video game. But the concepts of the lore really do dig throughout the entire thing. Even down to the death aspect, how your character dies. Because your character never really dies. You don't have hit points, you have morale. And your morale gets lessened, and then you retreat from battle, quote unquote. Wyoming says, never drank at all or touched drugs other than meds, so I have no way of understanding the lack of thought or willpower to do such a thing to themselves. Well, yeah. I mean, I'll give my answer to that, at least in part. Oh, wait, hang on. There's a thing in the instructions here. There seems to be a trick to this cell. I shall have to talk to her ladyship to make sure it's properly sealed. Yeah, this is a pretty cool thing. I'll see if I can get it. Up here, you have this wall here, a little rock wall that opens and closes. So a little hidden entrance thing. I would say, in order to show a sympathetic nature towards that, to show my understanding of how that works, the way I view it is, it's like overeating. Because that's my, that's my issue. Like, I love food, and so it's very easy for me to overeat. And being able to sympathize with maybe, alcohol or drugs are not the thing that drive me, but ultimately, for some people it is, and they don't care about food. But food doesn't have the side effect of removing critical faculties, right? And I think that's the real difference. How much time did it take me to grow my beard? I started it in 2020. Ish. Trying to think now. No, I started it in 2021. But I kind of let it grow out right at the end of 2020. And I was keeping it a little bit bushier than my normal very trim beard style. And then I just kind of gave up on it and said, let's see how long I can get it and how long it takes me to, hate it, basically, was my thought process. Like, I figured at some point I'd get tired of having a long beard. And now it's just kind of a thing that I haven't really had a reason to shave off yet. So I'll keep it for a bit longer. But I have a feeling that one day I'll shave it off again. The last time I had weird facial hair was when I was getting ready for a friend's wedding, and I was the officiator. I was not like an actual priest or anything, but I was officiating the wedding. And he had like a theme to his wedding, which was kind of like steampunk-ish, and he wanted all of his friends and his best men and all of us to be wearing kind of like Wild West steampunkish style hairdos and beards and whatnot. So I had that, you see it in a lot of my videos. I had that kind of weird like mutton chop to mustache type thing going on. A friend of mine had a big long Gandalf style beard. Another guy had handlebar mustaches. So we all kind of did this weird thing. The gear in Lord of the Rings, difference between the books and the movies. Yeah, then there's in terms of accuracy, I really love the Rohirrim armor in the films. Like, I think it looks really cool, but it's actually incorrect for what the Rohirrim should be wearing. In the books, they almost exclusively wear mail. That's really all they wear. They aren't wearing like plate or anything like that, but plate kind of plays better on film in general. Makes people seem bulkier. Lord of the Rings is a great world. A lot of work went into it. Most people don't understand how well done it is compared to later fantasy. That's one of the reasons that I have a really hard time reading other fantasy. I really struggle reading fantasy from other authors. It's very rare that I find what I really like. You can't grow a beard because of gas mask. Yeah. Yep. Got to keep it clean shaven. I'll tell you, this beard was not fun when everyone wanted you to wear face masks. It was like, I don't think you understand how face masks won't work with a beard. Is what it is, unfortunately. Yeah, I think what I would probably do as a Lord of the Rings Online type video would actually just be explore the world, like log into my character and explore and talk about the things that I've found and the gameplay and all that. You know, there are plenty of, again, the unfortunate thing about kind of rehashing it, there are plenty of channels out there that have done that type of content though. So again, I struggle a little bit with the concept of like doing the same thing that other people have done a billion times before. Yeah, it's an interesting little mechanism. I'll show you the mechanism in a moment. I'm going to finish up this little bit here and then I'll show it off. How is this orienting? Gosh, they changed this around completely. Couple pieces. All right, so here's the little interesting mechanism. I'll bring out the secondary camera for this. So it'll probably be easier to see. Alright, so right here you have this little piece that would normally slide. But in order to allow it to slide, you have to pull up this rock face, which exposes the little hideout here, and then this can slide over and access this little dungeon cell here. So it's kind of like a like a little Lego escape room puzzle box thing. Pretty cool. All right, let's see. So yeah, the Mastiff, yeah, didn't really fly. And the same thing is kind of true where I live. Most people in my area were done with that by, you know, mid 2020. And really, it was just, there were holdouts here and there, and some, either national businesses or brands that would kind of have to toe those lines. Bag 18 here. Wow, we had like a bunch of people on, like upwards of 7 people all at once. That's pretty crazy. I'm very used to these streams only being like 2 or 3 people. So having, what are we at right now? What is our concurrent viewership is 5 right now on average, but it just dropped to 3 briefly. It's a weird thing. As I watch concurrent viewership for these live streams, it's bounces around a lot. Yeah, definitely people jump in and out. That's very common. It's the concurrent viewership tends to, I think, because you may not be able to. I know you probably can't see it as just viewers. There's like a couple different statistics that run on the dashboard for the live stream. And I can see how long people have been watching, like how long they're tuned in. And we were at 5 people for quite a while, actually. And we still are. Like, we're at 5 concurrent viewers, and that hasn't dropped below 5 for probably the past 10 minutes or so. So there's at least 5 people here. They may not be talking on chat, but there are people who actually have the stream open and are watching it. And it seems to be a pretty accurate assessment of how many people are actually watching at a given time. And you got to imagine there's a ton of people who see this pop up on their YouTube dashboard, not even knowing what it even is. There's like, why am I getting this random live stream? I'll go check it out. It's a castle, and they'll go look at it and be like, okay, well, I'm not sure who this person is, because they may have been subscribed to the channel years ago and never saw content until they forgot about their subscription to it, or who knows what. So it's probably a little bit befuddling to some people, honestly. Hey Zep, sorry I didn't get notified. I did shoot out a notification to the Discord. How YouTube notifies is not really something I can control very well. So, what's the thing? Click the bell icon if you want notifications, because you totally won't get them if that bell icon is not active. I was never good at saying all the things you were supposed to say. Make sure you like, subscribe, and click the bell. Those are the 3 critical things that you have to tell everyone to do in every single video, for some reason. And the reality is that it actually does matter. There's a huge increase in subscriber base and interactions and all the rest of it if you encourage people to do it. Even encouraging people to comment is like a thing. And likewise, like, there's all these people that are on the stream but not chatting. Encouraging them to chat is also a thing. And like, I just saw Scholar say he's in the middle of doing a translation thing, so he's not talking. That's fine. You don't have to feel pressured into it. You don't have to feel like you have to do anything. This is none of this is a requirement. This is for your enjoyment, however you choose to enjoy it. But the engagement is what drives viewership at YouTube ultimately. I think it was I saw a video a while back of Mr. Beast, who is the largest YouTube personality and channel of all time, and he was talking about the keys to YouTube success, and it really does come as like a like you just have to get click-throughs, engagement, and watch time. Like you need that clickbait title and thumbnail to get the person to click on it. You need to grab them and have them watching the thing all the way through. And you need them liking, commenting, subscribing, all the rest of it. A gear? What sorcery is this? Says the instructions. So yeah, I mean it's something I never did with my channel, and honestly, probably to the detriment of the channel. I know that my growth was not the same as many of my peers, and many of my peers were doing exactly that. They were going for clickbait titles or clickbait topics, and nothing wrong with it. That's the type of content they wanted to create. I just didn't have an interest in doing that. And since I knew that YouTube was not going to be a career for me, that I was really doing it more out of just interest and passion, I didn't feel like it necessitated me to do all that. And yes, I do generally go around 2100 or 9 p.m. Eastern Standard. So people on the West Coast benefit from a little bit more friendly time. People in Europe, for the people in Europe who do, for some reason, stay up as late as they do to watch this, yeah, unfortunately, this is just the time that I can get where my kids are in bed. Sudden change in content was very strange. Yeah, and I really, that's also a video I need to make at some point, is a bit of an explanation around that. And I need to redo an intro video and all that. But ultimately, it just comes down to I'm not interested in pigeonholing my channel. And while I'm still very passionate about the topics that were covered under the Medieval Review branding, I want to do other things as well and talk about other things and do other things. So I renamed the channel, rebranded it under just my name, even though I haven't fully done all that because I'm lazy and I don't get around to everything. And I'll still just treat the channel as I always have, which is just a pet project that I like to interact with every once in a while. And great interaction with the community, which is really the most fun part. And that's why I like doing the live stream so much, because I get to sit down and actually kind of get to know everyone. And learn about what interests people have beyond medieval things, which is, there are some people that it's not even that their interests are beyond medieval things. They have interests that go really deep into medieval topics, and they do interesting things in and of themselves. Much like Scholar General over here. A lot of different things that people do. And Zepzak, you're building a castle in Minecraft survival world. Good luck. When Minecraft moved to having enemies, especially the ones that explode, I remember. Oh, hello, fly. Oh. I remember building a castle and then having a creeper come along and explode it, and I was just like, well, there went all my hard work. Need a way to be able to fortify the castles a little bit better. Maybe they have that now. I could do games like I did with Kingdom Come, Deliverance. Yeah. And I could. I do like video games. I like playing video games. But I feel like there's a lot of channels out there that do that. Again, I kind of hate to retread stuff. So sitting down and just kind of building Legos is a bit of, or as far as live streams are concerned, is a bit more my speed. And I'm not a reactive personality. So like, if I'm playing a competitive multiplayer game and something crazy happens, I don't have like large, ridiculous overreactions to that. that tend to drive people to watch those types of live streams. It's just, again, it's just not my personality. I'm a very roughly even keel type person, generally speaking. And I did play a little bit of Kingdom Come Deliverance, but and it was a fine game. I had some issues with it, some confusion, and but ultimately it kind of fell under the same problem of just, it feels like I'm playing a game because it's got a medieval theme to it, and not because I really want to play the game. And that kind of is no fun. Like, I was actually legitimately excited for the game, but I just never spent a lot of time in it. Especially because my kids were born, and I just didn't have time for video games, I suppose. What's the water circle they put around the castles? I have one of those. A moat. That's a good point. Does water keep creepers out? See, I didn't... when I played Minecraft, none of that was in existence, and then suddenly it was in existence, and I didn't know the rules, and they were just destroying all my stuff, and it was like, oh, I guess I can't do this anymore, or the way I was originally playing Minecraft. So that was so long ago, and I kind of gave up on Minecraft past that. Never really went back to it. I see. Water equals no. But I meant more of like, does it keep the... Do enemies not go into the water? I guess was my question. Less so the explosion piece. Just do enemies actually stop at water? Why aren't they just trying to swim across the moat? Your kids do Minecraft to keep things away. They build a wide moat and then place a thing of carpet on the water. Monsters don't see the carpet. Interesting. It was all such a new thing when I was playing it. That's the thing. I mean, I bought it. I bought it when the only way you could get Minecraft was purchasing it basically directly from Mojang, from Notch himself, and it was kind of in this weird state. It just kicked off in its popularity. Okay, they fall into the water and drown. Interesting. Well, that's great. I like that the actual purpose of a moat comes to bear, even in a game like Minecraft. I do remember that my one solution to it was I started building like sky castles, basically. I would just build floating castles in the sky. But again, I quit playing shortly after all that, so didn't really ever come to anything. What am I doing here? This is a weird contraption I'm doing. This must be for like the drawbridge mechanism, maybe? It's just a weird building technique that I'm seeing in this area right here. On the instructions, it's a very weird implementation. You don't often see pieces hanging off the edge like it's doing. Just make it wide enough so ranged attackers don't get to you. There you go. At this, Minecraft is teaching the next generation siege techniques, basically. How to build castles and whatnot. A long time ago, there was a fake MMO, and by that I mean it was back in the days when people would fall for, you know, the online trolls, as it were. But there was someone who made an entire fake development studio and made screenshots and all the stuff of a theoretical game that was called Dawn, I think it was. I don't remember if that was the only bit of the title, but it was something like Dawn. And it was supposed to be an MMO much like a Minecraft version MMO type thing where it was open world, but everything was modifiable. And like it's the type of thing that they actually can do today with like voxel based games and all of that. But the idea was that you would, be placed in this world and you would have to kind of figure out what you wanted to do. And people were forming plans for how they would, build out fortifications and build guilds and all that type of stuff in the conceit of how that game was supposed to work. And I remember that the guild that I was a part of, waiting for this game that was never going to be launched to launch, because we all thought it was going to be real. We didn't have any idea that it was never going to be real at the time. So we're all kind of biding our time, waiting for it to happen. But we kind of took the medieval siegecraft mentality or castle building mentality, and we were like, oh, we're going to start with like a Mott and Bailey design. Go cut down trees and plant spikes and mound up earth, and that at least gives us something that's defensible if anyone tries to take over our space, so we can then build a better, more fully fleshed out castle down the line. That was a long time ago. I still kind of wish that game would have existed, because the concept would have probably been a lot of fun. I think that there are those games out there now, which is crazy. Things like Minecraft have really allowed for that kind of content or that kind of gameplay to actually exist. I think there is actually an MMO now that's kind of like that, where you can terraform and change things around. But one of the problems, and it's a channel, Josh Strife Hayes. I had to think about his name for a moment. He has a fun video series called Worst MMO Ever, where he basically plays all sorts of MMOs and tells you if they're good or bad, basically. And the short story is basically they're almost always bad. And he actually talks about how that concept is very enticing, but then upon execution, it always devolves into basically griefing. And it's very true. The more control you give to players, the worse it becomes. And he gives great examples of it. Some of the videos he has. And he actually did a video on Lord of the Rings Online as part of the Worst MMO Ever series, and his outcome of that was it's an incredibly fantastic MMO, as he should, because it is an incredibly fantastic MMO. And I highly recommend it. If any of you like Lord of the Rings and have never played an MMO, it's a very PvE friendly, and it's a very new player friendly MMO. It's from developed originally by a company that had some of the best showings for multiplayer type games, know how to create good quest lines. That has been maintained throughout the history of that game. So I highly recommend it. It is a fantastic game. You can solo most of the game, if not all of the game. I think they've even started doing some modified versions of their raids to allow for more solo-friendly stuff. But some of the raids in that are totally worth doing with a group, such as there's actually a raid to take down a dragon, and it's a big, awesome raid. And I used to run it back as one of the primary tanks back in the day, because I played as a guardian in that game. But that dragon was really cool. Dragok was the name of the dragon. And it was this really neat... The concept of the fight was really slick, in that you had... a raid in Lord of the Rings Online is 12 people, I believe. I think the fellowship could be 6 people. And then a raid was 2 fellowships together. Yeah, you've played in Moe's, pretend to play single player. Well, if Wyoming, if you like Lord of the Rings and have never played or and like to play solo, Lord of the Rings Online is certainly one of the best, and it is a free to play. The way that they work it is like there is a monthly pay option that unlocks a lot of stuff, but there's a lot of things that are unlocked as long as you make a single purchase. But it's also kind of a pay as you go type game, and it's very, very friendly. Most of the monetization of Lord of the Rings Online is actually cosmetic, like truly cosmetic. You pay $5 for the really awesome helmet, right? And you don't have to buy the helmet, and the helmet doesn't do anything other than let you role play a little bit better. So I highly recommend it. I think it's a great game. But the Dragok raid, it had so many stages to it. But the first stage was basically you go into the entrance to a cavern where this dragon is supposed to be. And when you have the minimum amount of players, which I think was 8, but a raid is 12. Which I think a raid could go up to 24. I'm trying to remember. It's been so long since I've done a lot of that I can't remember the numbers. But yeah, when you had the minimum number of players to actually start the raid, which I think was 8, they would all stand on the ground near the entrance, and it would cave in, and you'd fall into the cave. And then you were at the top of this zigzagging. I'm going to take a break from building to describe this because I don't think I can multitask this. So I'll come to just chatting. You had this zigzagging path down this kind of interior cave cliff face. And Dragok wakes up when the cave crumbles in. And he kind of talks in the same style as Smog in that he's like, "Hello, intruders. I know you're there. I can smell you, but I can't see you." And his eyes shoot out beams very similar to the way that Smog had his eye beams in the Hobbit cartoon, where it's like 2 spotlights looking around. And he's actually moving around these holes in this kind of dual cliffside thing, and he's peeking in, and wherever his eyes are, if he sees you, it's insta-death. He like blows fire and you die. And you're sliding kind of uncontrolled, like almost like a big game of Plinko, going down this cliffside. And you are trying to time your slides, and there's flat parts that you're trying to run. But you got to get down to the bottom of this thing without dying. And once everyone gets down to the bottom, then the raid starts in earnest. So you have like this challenge just to get through, to just show that you know the basics of the game. You can survive like the most simple task. But then the Dragok raid actually splits into 2 groups. And the prototypical version was a primary tank that would tank his head. And so what you'd have is Dragok's head is basically 2 circles, donut-shaped circles of caves surrounding this central cavernous area with like gold piled up at the bottom. So it's like a big silo, is the best way to think of it. And the people at the head level of Dragok would run in circles, keeping aggro, right, the attention of the dragon on them. And he would move periodically, and he had minor tells as to which direction he would go. And if the tank didn't keep up with his speed and where he was going, bad things would happen very quickly. But you'd have basically that tank keeping him busy, while a healer would sit behind a wall, a little bit safe, healing that tank and just keeping them alive. And their entire goal for the vast majority of the raid was just keep him busy. That was the goal. And anytime Dragok moved, he would fly, and his wings would beat, and it would send gold coins everywhere. And it was a damage over time that would, like, bullets of coins hitting all the players. So you had to, like, survive the coins flying everywhere and be behind certain walls and whatnot while you're moving around. And so you're kind of, 2 levels. You have the top level was the tank and the healer aggroing him. And the bottom level was all the rest of the raid. And you had 2 levels, I think it was. So it's a total of 3 levels. But the people on the bottom had 2 floors that they were dealing with, and you're attacking his feet. So he had four claws that he was grabbing into the wall, and you had to do damage to each of his feet enough that they became weakened. And once all 4 of his feet were weakened, he would fall off the cliff face. And his feet would do damage, like he would stomp and slash and all that. And there are things you had to do to keep everyone alive. But he would fall down to the middle of the cavern. And every time he fell, you would have to jump down into the center of this silo, which the idea is your fall was being broken by big mounds of coins. So you do these big kind of like crazy death-defying leaps into this middle of this cavern where Dragok was, and you would attack his belly basically. And then when he was ready to get back up, so he had this brief window of time to do damage, you had to run back quickly into the caves, and then you'd repeat the same process. And you do that until you did enough damage to him on his belly, or when he was on his back doing damage to his belly or whatever, that then he would flip over, and that would be the final phase of the fight, where he would fight you in the middle of the pile of coins. And you had the similar concept of, you had a primary tank that would keep him busy, while the rest of the group attacked him in the middle, but behind, because he'd blow fire and everything. And he's this huge enemy. Somewhere I probably even have a photo of when we defeated him. I actually stood on top of his head, like all triumphant. It was just a really, really cool raid. And it was those types of things that were just amazing in Lord of the Rings Online. Let's see. Okay, you looked up the wiki. A raid is typically a group of fellowship comprised of higher level or level cap players. You have up to 4 fellowships in a raid. Okay, that's right. You can have up to 24. I feel like that's true. Okay, so here's where the 12 was coming from. I believe that the raid of 24 is only in some rare cases, and most of those are PvP raids, not instance like PvE raids. And PvE raids tended to be capped at 12, I believe. And I'm gonna go look up a video. Of like somebody playing these raids. It'll fly on me again. And I'll mute it so I don't. But let's pull this over. So this, let's see. This is a Renaissance Gaming channel. Oh, it's really hard to see. It's very dark. Not a good video. Their gamma is not high enough. Let's look at this video. Oh wait, I'm not. Let me screen share. All right. So let's see if this one is better. So yeah, like here they are. They're going down the walls, and you can see the light shining in from the eyes, and they have to avoid his gaze to get down. So and there's that, you can see the shine right there. And so they have to sneak their way down to the bottom, and then you can see how big he is. And the raid doesn't start until everyone is down at the bottom either. Or there's like a trigger for it, which I think is also a floor collapsing. Something like that. Yeah, maybe that's when the floor collapses. So they're kind of gathering together to get the right number of people to fight. And let's see. So they're running through the caves. Yeah, they got 12 people, so that's what I thought. It's kind of full raid. So you can see here, this guy is playing as part of that's attacking the feet. So there's his feet. And you could probably find videos of someone attacking the head and skipping around some. I want you to be able to see the scale of this dragon. when he gets into the middle, especially. So there he goes. He flops down the middle, and there they all go in to attack this dragon. You can see how big it is. And so, oh yeah, and one of the neat things about this, I forgot about the conjunctions. So Lord of the Rings Online has a conjunction system, which I will explain thusly. When you're in a full fellowship, generally speaking, is when the conjunctions matter. When an enemy is dazed or in a state that is applied in like a debuff state, usually done by a burglar class, it brings up a conjunction thing, which you have 4 icons. You have green, blue, yellow, and red. Red meaning damage. Yellow meaning like bleed over, damage over time. So you have like massive damage or damage over time. Green meaning heal, and blue meaning like cleanse or protection, like defensive buffs. And depending on what you chose and in what order you chose them, it's kind of like having 2 of a kind or a full house or that kind of thing. And the order matters, and there's always different conjunctions. And some of them will like summon an ent for a moment to do like this big damage thing. It's like if you do like all red, a big ent appears. But if you do like red, red, green, yellow, yellow, blue, or something like that, red, red, green, yellow, yellow, blue, which would be 6 people, then you do like a really special thing. But everyone would have to know the timing, and you have this very short window to actually start the conjunction in. And part of the Dragok challenge, to both make it easier as well as to meet certain criteria for like loot drops and whatnot, you would have to do specific conjunctions to win. So that's what you're actually seeing there when this burglar ran up, and that little there, right there in the middle of the screen, these 4 little icons, those were like they choose. And then up here at the top line, in the top center of the screen, you can see the different colors they chose. And then they had titles for all these things. And so yeah, you wash, rinse, and repeat that thing of attacking the feet until he goes down into the center and you fight him like this. And you can see how big he is. I mean, he fills up the entire screen. And here they are attacking him some more, trying to take him down. And then at some point they kill him, and here he is dead. And he has like this whole death animation where he dies, and he dies with his eyes open. But they go out. And yeah, he's just a really big dragon. It's a very cool raid. When they introduced it, it was one of the coolest things. Highly recommend going and watching someone play it. It's really, really slick. Now I'm going to catch up on chat. Oh, conversation about whether it's money or love of money. And yes, it is. Love of money is the root of all evil. Indeed. But yeah, the man, that Dragok raid is amazing. And one of the really sad things is once the level cap moved beyond the requirements for that raid, like that raid became non-existent at that point. Like people just quit playing it. So it was very hard like to get people that would go and do it. And I don't know, maybe they've actually added a modified version now or something that can be done with a smaller group. Or maybe even solo, but I kind of doubt it. Such an amazing game, though. And the devs really, really took the creation of Middle-earth for that game very seriously. And I was all in very early on in that game as well. When they first announced it, it was announced as Middle-earth Online. MEO was the acronym for it. And that's actually still to this day, some of my friends and I will accidentally refer to it as MEO instead of Lotro, which is what it became. And it was back in 2004 when they announced it, but they had been doing development since like 2002, 2001. It was originally being created by Sierra way back in the day. And then the license got bought out, and the game got bought out by Turbine, who then eventually turned it from Middle-earth Online as it was branded under Sierra, to Lord of the Rings Online to kind of capitalize on the Lord of the Rings name more so. Even though I feel like Middle-earth Online was a better name for it, the game was, kind of really being originally created for fans of the books, and it's based on the books. It has nothing to do with the films. And so you get a very different vision of Middle-earth. Thankfully, like, I love the films, but I actually like seeing the way other people interpret Tolkien's work. And there was a lot of really interesting things. They're going to have, like, when it was Middle-earth Online, they had concepts of corruption. So there's, you can kind of think of it like the way Star Wars: The Old Republic would work, but instead of it being like your choices, it was like, yes, you could wear this helmet that gives you amazing stats that would make you a beast on the battlefield, but it's going to corrupt your soul, right? And like you would slowly, it's like the One Ring, right? You'd slowly turn evil. And they kind of got rid of that. They moved away from having the players having potential of being evil. And in fact, the PvP in that game, I actually really loved the PvP of it, but it was rather divisive. The PvP zone was its own separate thing, where the good guys could come in with their characters that they normally play in the rest of the world. But to be a bad guy, you had to roll a monster player, and you could be an orc or a spider or any number of things. And the bad guys for PvP were basically relegated to just that PvP zone, and never really got to see outside of it. But yeah, they got rid of the kind of corruption thing, and they went to a much more narrative-driven plot line. But so much of the original essence of the game was kept. And in fact, people who would boundary break the game, and I actually used to do that. I used to actually do some boundary breaking, like get out of areas that you weren't supposed to get out of, and go wander across parts of the world that just weren't quite created. But someone actually managed to get out of one area and actually discovered an alpha or even pre-alpha version that was used to make trailers for the game. They discovered like part of something from way back in the early development. But yeah, when they announced Middle-earth Online, I was already following it. I was like, oh boy, I cannot wait for this to come out. And then I followed it from there through them becoming Lord of the Rings Online, and I got to be in the Alpha 3, which was one of the first alphas they opened up to the general public. And I still have screenshots from way back then of like the weird broken state the game was in periodically. But you could tell, even that early on, you could tell how much the game was going to like do right and how awesome it was going to be. And by the time they launched it, it was much more well polished. And yeah, of course, like any game, it had its glitches and had its weird eccentricities, but it was truly a very, very good game on launch. And the plot line of the first iteration, the Shadows of Angmar plot line, was incredibly good. Had to do with corruption of an elf character, and you actually try to redeem this character. Is very interesting, very good, and it actually even got so far as to like get some people that would actually cosplay some of the characters from the game. Not much cosplaying, but a little bit I know existed out there very early on. And I actually, there was a Halloween costume event in the game where you could get the costume of the main enemy from the Shadows of Angmar. And I actually nabbed the name of that character, so I was actually able to walk around the world with the actual name and look of the character. It's a lot of fun. In your tabletop Tolkien RPG, the players recently killed a dragon that caused the cavern to cave in. You know, and that's one of the things that was really interesting, again, about Lord of the Rings Online, because they were very, very focused on being true to source material. You know, dragons are a very rare thing in Tolkien's world, and they were playing a little bit fast and loose by creating a dragon, but their justification was basically this dragon had been long dormant and sleeping, and he'd only just recently woken up. from his long slumber, and that's why you were fighting him. He was a lesser dragon, but you see how big he is. And of course, Lord of the Rings Online has drakes and fell beasts and all that, but never true dragons. The closest you'd come in that game to fighting a dragon was fighting worms, which are, not full dragons, but they're dragon-like. Yeah, well, I mean, you're playing, which rule set are you doing for your tabletop? Are you doing the One Ring one? Is that what it's called? The One Ring pen and paper RPG? Is it called the One Rings? I don't even remember if that's what it's called now. I'm gonna look it up. One Ring pen and paper. Yeah, this is the one I'm thinking of. Publisher's Cubicle 7. Is that the one you're playing? Because this is the one that I played a little bit of, and I was actually the lore master for it. The Cubicle 7 version was very interesting, but it requires people to be really bought into the Tolkien mindset, as opposed to like the Dungeons and Dragons mindset. Hey, Sprazor, how you doing? Tolkien's world is not one that fully translates to the fast and loose fantasy style that most people are accustomed to with the pen and paper style RPG gaming. It's why Dungeons and Dragons works so well, because you can just do goofy things, and people like being able to do goofy things, and pure goofy things don't really work all that well in Middle Earth. You have to have some like notion of grounded reality and normalcy in terms of behavior. Dwarves can't just be completely bumbling idiots all the time, and elves can't always be stodgy, but at the same time you have to treat things seriously here and there, and again, it's just something that I don't think is as appealing to many people. So maybe we'll actually take a break in tomorrow's live stream during the day when I'm doing the daytime live stream. Maybe we'll do a little bit of Lord of the Rings Online, play a little bit of it just to mess around as a break from doing the design. Okay, Ice made the Rollmaster system older out of print system. Okay, yeah, I'm aware of the Ice one. The One Ring one is the newer one. I know that. I know that it's kind of the newer concept, but I am aware of the Ice version. Yeah, I think you'd mentioned that before, now that I think about it. Lots of pieces to grab here. Pretty much all the pieces. What was I doing with this thing? I built this thing. I don't know what I even was supposed to do with it. Oh, it goes on the outside of the tree part over here. Totally forgot about it. There we go. Yeah, Middle Earth is easily, and I'm saying Middle Earth because, well, it's true, Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, but I think more broadly speaking, the world that Tolkien created, I could talk about it all the time. I'm just infinitely fascinated by it all. and really, really love it. So, and Lord of the Rings was such a good outlet for it. And I played a Guardian class, which was the sword and board tank class, and I was really good at it. In my opinion, anyway. And I remember they released a new tank class called the Warden, and it's a very, very technical and very difficult class to play. But people who got really good at it could tank really well, and so much so that they always felt like they could outclass any Guardian tanks. And I actually had a guy challenge me. He said, "I bet you I could beat you in 2 minutes." And he could do damage and take me down. And as you would expect, realistically, it was just kind of a stalemate. But he definitely was not able to take me down. And he actually said, like, "My goodness, you know exactly how to play that class, don't you?" I was like, "Yeah, I've been playing since launch." It was like 10 years in. I'd been playing this thing. I always found that kind of funny. The people who play Wardens are incredibly good at the game, though. And around that time, they also launched a new class trading system. Trait, not trading. Traiting system. Trait. That would allow you to take different specialties. And the Guardian class got this really cool specialty called the Keen Edge specialty, which basically turned you from being a pure sword and board tank to being a two-handed, like, broadsword fighting, or I say broadsword, but it's kind of a term they use in fantasy. You know, two-handed sword, big sword, style fighting with AoE debuff sharing, basically. So what you do is you would put like a bunch of bleed debuffs on an enemy, and you could stack it up to like 10x power. And then when you did a big AoE move, you know, big sweeping attack, and you could increase the number of things that your AoEs would hit up to like a maximum of like 10 enemies. And you would copy all of the debuffs of your primary target to all the things that got hit by your AoE. So what you'd do is you'd stack all these bleeds, and then you'd do an AoE, and you'd watch everything around you just crumble. Like, they'd all die so quickly. And it was really cool because it turned Guardians from being the very prototypical sword and board, just like, you're never going to do damage, you're just going to sit there and absorb damage type class, to being a class that, like, you know, basically if your opponents tried to all dive in and attack you all at once, you could take them all down really quickly if you knew what you were doing. It is a great. It's when they released that trait line, and I learned how to use the Keen Edge stuff. I never went back to a different build. Like, I stuck to the Keen Edge build because it was just so good. Such a good implementation, such a good concept. And I know they've modified it multiple times since. In fact, I'm pretty sure if I were to log in now, I'd probably have to retrait everything. But it was just such a great, interesting concept for how you'd fight. And that was one of the things I really liked about how Turbine and then Standing Stone Games and the people who developed it, they got really good at, like, when they made changes to the games, ultimately, like, you know you're going to make some portion of the fan base unhappy with changes. But, like, they were always pretty awesome changes. And they did mounted combat really well. Being able to ride around on a horse and fight enemies that were mounted on horses, while it had its issues, was still really cool. So maybe that's the thing we'll do tomorrow in some of the stream is run around and I'll show off some of that stuff for people who've never seen it or played it. How many levels does it have? It's a good question. Lotro Level Cap. It's going to be really high now. When I quit playing, it was like 120. Looks like it's at 140 right now. And basically, you'd have 5 extra levels per expansion. And they've done quite a few expansions since I quit playing in earnest. I think I'm like a 115 or 120. And apparently 140 is now the highest. Dimitri, the sword and board is basically, I mean, it's not a buckler, it's like a big shield. The closest you get to sword and buckler was actually the minstrel class, which was a really fun class to play as well. That's the main healing class. The minstrel class, again, because Lord of the Rings Online doesn't operate on the concept of hit points or health, it operates on the concept, with the main conceit being morale. Like, when you're getting attacked, you're not getting injured, you're getting your morale beaten down because you're not able to win the fight or whatever. That's the concept. And so the minstrel class they're literally like people running around with instruments, playing heroic songs and like convincing you to fight on and keep up the fight, and that's how they heal you. They are making your morale better. It says, what a fine stall for our ladies' destrier. Methinks it would even fit in. Oh, methinks he would even fit in there wearing his comparison. Cool. So this is gonna be a horse stall, apparently. But yeah, the minstrel class was a really fun one to play, and I actually, my minstrel, I'll probably walk through all my characters as well at some point. My minstrel was a hobbit who played bagpipes and I ended up putting him in what was basically like the prototypical German Oktoberfest outfit. Like, he wears like a pretzel hat. It's very silly. And like a giant barrel of ale on his back. And it sounds very silly, but it actually works kind of well. I really like the minstrel class. It's a lot of fun. But they run around with their sword and shield as well, because they're very defensive in their playstyle. But they don't wear heavy armor. They wear like light armor. And so light armor shields are bucklers. Medium armor shields. Medium armor is like what wardens are. And so the weird, interesting trade-off of the warden tank class is that they wear medium armor, but they do self-heals. It's what makes them very powerful. They can increase their morale and self-heal. And they have what looks a lot like a Spartan's shield. In fact, their typical design is like if you take a circular shield and then cut a notch out of it where a spear could sit, because they would fight with the spear through the hole in the shield. That's kind of their design. And then you have the Guardians, which fight with like giant big heater shields that they hide behind. Yeah, just fantastic game. And I played basically every class that existed in that game, up to level cap at the time, which was like 115 or 120. And they've released a couple of classes and new character races since then, but I haven't played any of them. So, yeah, kind of like a Rotella. All right, well, that's our 2 bags. I'll go over to the Just Chatting again. I got another minifigure bag here to open, so I'm going to feel it. See what I can feel in here. Something round and something pointy. That feels like a hat. Round hat. I should be able to confirm this fairly easily. If this is what I think it is, I should be able to find. What's this? Yep. Okay. So I felt a round hat, a pointy thing, and this I am feeling is an angled broom. So my prediction is that I'm going to be getting this snowman character. Let's see if I'm right. Looks like I am right. Uh-oh. Drop all the bits to it. Oh, that's interesting. It's actually because it's like a costume. He's actually got this little face underneath what's going to be a large snowman helmet thing. Sell it down so I can build him. I want this little knight character is what I want. It's the main one I'm going for. But I'm okay with having all of them at some point, if possible. Yeah, so the pointy thing I was feeling was this little carrot nose. And I felt the hat, the little stovepipe hat, and the broom. There we go. There is the little snowman character. So that's my surprise bag for the day. All right. Carson Fedderson, do I use them for D&D? I think you're talking about Lego characters. No, I don't, actually. But I do think that Lego characters work really well for role-playing games. Because they're very customizable. You can do a lot with them. All right. Well, it is 10:30. We got through our 2 bags. We built a little minifigure. I was still hoping for the knight, but we'll have to keep trying for it. Yeah, so my plan for tomorrow, for anyone who's interested, and I know realistically people have to work, so, you know, may not be able to watch, but it will be available later if you want to watch it after the fact. It's probably going to be a much longer live stream, probably multiple hours, not just 1.5 or 2 hours like the nighttime streams are. I'll probably try to start maybe about 10 a.m. Eastern Standard. And I'm going to start by doing the Lego design work that I want to do. And we'll probably take a periodic break to play Lord of the Rings Online a little bit. And maybe swap back and forth between that and a couple other things. Just to kind of do something different. And then tomorrow night at the normal 9 p.m. time, I'll be back up here to keep working on the castle. So if the only stream you can get to are the nighttime streams, there will still be one tomorrow. But we'll still try to do something a little bit different. And so I look forward to doing those streams. And yeah, I'm going to probably wrap up here, finish up for this live stream, and go get some sleep and get ready for a longer day tomorrow. I'm doing all this because I have vacation. I'm on vacation right now, so I'm doing live streams as a fun thing. So cool. All right, everyone. Well, I hope everyone has a good night. And for those who are able to see or able to get on either tomorrow during the day or tomorrow night, I'll see you tomorrow.